To avenge his brutally murdered wife and daughter, the husband grabbed a steel knife and charged straight at the killer. He was determined to stab him to death with one blow, but suddenly, the police stepped in. They wanted the law to punish the murderer. Yet Jack's wife and daughter would never come back, and the killer flashed a provocative, triumphant smile. On the day of the trial, a desperate Jack only hoped the killer would receive the death penalty, but the law didn't deliver what he wanted. Instead, the murderer would be fed and cared for like a king, because in South Korea, ever since 1997, the death penalty has no longer been carried out on any prisoner, so David wouldn't face any real punishment. He could live safely behind bars, protected from revenge. This absurd outcome was something Jack simply couldn't accept. His eyes instantly turned fierce and bloodshot. Even if it cost him his own life, he would use the killer's blood to honor his wife's soul, and that meant the death awaiting David would be far beyond anyone's imagination. Soon after, Jack quit his job and started force-feeding himself huge amounts of boiled chicken breast every day. Even when it made him physically sick, he kept going after day, until his swollen muscles stretched his skin with visible striations, and his once frail body was forged into a solid wall. But every night when darkness fell, he would still think of his murdered wife and daughter. The husband who had stayed strong until now finally broke down and sobbed uncontrollably. Yet Jack quickly pulled himself together. Instead of letting tears blur his vision, he would turn them into a weapon to drive into the killer's heart. So he trained even harder at home, practicing knife skills and every killing technique he could learn, all for the day he would take the murderer's life with his own hands. Then, 3 years later, the chance for revenge finally came. Jack discovered that a gang boss who had been framed and sent to prison was locked up in the same facility as the man who killed his wife. So when the gang boss was out on a one-day parole to see off a relative, Jack handed him evidence proving how his two subordinates had betrayed him. Upon learning the truth behind his imprisonment, the gang boss instantly came up with 100 ways to kill those two men, but with only 1 day of freedom, he had no chance to act. Jack then offered a straightforward deal. He would take out the two traitors on the outside, and in return, the gang boss would kill David inside the prison. But Jack had one condition: David must not be killed outright. Hearing this, the gang boss looked both dark and puzzled. Why not just finish off such a vile criminal? Jack offered no further explanation, and the smart gang boss didn't press for one. The two men, each driven by hatred, reached a deadly agreement. What surprised the gang boss, however, was that Jack found and eliminated one of the traitors in just 4 hours. Although Jack successfully took out one, the other subordinate was a ruthless killer surrounded by dozens of gang members every day. Jack chose not to confront him head-on. Instead, he hid along their regular route and waited for the perfect moment to ram his car straight into the gas tank.